After prolonged, grueling stretches of battling the fierce drought of the dry season, when temperatures peak and the ground feels as though it is being baked alive, people often sink into a state of physical and mental exhaustion. The suffocating heat radiating from urban concrete jungles or the scorching sun of the countryside leaves everyone desperate for an escape. In this context, the trend of returning to nature, particularly seeking out pristine streams hidden under old forest canopies to camp, picnic, and cool off, has become an ideal choice and experience enthusiastically embraced by the masses, standing before a crystal-clear stream, staring straight down to the smooth pebbles at the bottom while listening to the bubbling water blending with the songs of forest birds truly feels like an antidote to all stress. During the final days of the dry season, streams naturally tend to run low. Vast, flat pebble banks that once lay deep underwater are now exposed, completely dry, creating the perfect space to pitch tents, fire up barbecue grills, or simply lie back and soak in the cool air. To urbanites lacking forest survival experience, this setting appears romantic, peaceful, and absolutely safe. Yet, within that seemingly ripple-free tranquility, a sudden weather shift often occurs. The sky opens up with rain. What is the first and almost exclusive reaction for most of us when facing the first rain after weeks of drought? It is a sigh of pure, refreshing relief. People cheer and welcome the cool droplets pouring from the void. It feels as though the universe has just executed a spectacular rescue, washing away the oppressive heat and dust accumulated over months. To the traveler, the first rain of the season looks like an invaluable bonus gift, making the picnic even more poetic and memorable. However, behind that romantic, picturesque scenery and instant cooling lies an incredibly brutal natural trap that has already been sprung. Being cautious with the first rains of the season is never redundant. It is a core rule of survival. Complacency, ignorance, and the habit of romanticizing extreme weather anomalies are the seeds that trigger heartbreaking tragedies. This is because the very first rains pouring down on a deeply desiccated landscape serve the most terrifying detonator for localized floods, also known as flash floods or mountain torrents. It is a cruel paradox of nature, the rain that brings life back to all living things after it. Drought is the exact same element ready to violently claim the lives of unvigilant travelers, right in the heart of a pristine stream. To truly understand why the first rains after a spell of severe drought possess a destructive power far more terrifying and dangerous than those occurring in the dead of the rainy season, we must dive deep into the physical mechanisms and geological characteristics of land under prolonged high temperatures. Natural disasters do not appear out of thin air. They are the result of continuous energy accumulation and material transformation. When land, especially in hilly regions and upstream watersheds, endures a brutal dry spell, its surface structure is drastically altered. Under the baking sun, moisture in the soil evaporates completely. The bonds between soil particles fracture, causing the earth to crack. Simultaneously, in clay or loam-heavy soils, the surface becomes heavily compacted and hardened, turning into a shell as solid as concrete. Furthermore, organic compounds within the vegetation and dry leaf litter undergo chemical alterations when baked for long periods, producing a thin, water-repellent film, a phenomenon known as soil hydrophobicity. At the same time, due to the acute lack of water, the protective ground cover consisting of moss, grass, and small shrubs withers away, completely losing its capacity to hold soil and impede runoff. When the first rain of the season falls, a massive volume of water suddenly hammers down on this barren, hardened crust. This is where the paradox begins. Many mistakenly believe that dry earth will absorb water rapidly like a sponge. In reality, the exact opposite happens. Because the surface layer has been calloused, compacted, and sealed by a hydrophobic film, the ground cannot absorb water in time. The earth is completely closed off to the initial downpour. Instead of soaking into the ground to replenish groundwater, the massive volume of rainwater immediately transforms into surface runoff. Imagine millions of gallons of rainwater doting down on a sloped concrete roof where does the water go? It sheets off instantly at a terrifying velocity. On mountainous terrain, this surface runoff funnels along steep slopes and small eroded dirt ruts, rushing toward the lowest points. And the lowest points are the dry ravines and stream beds. Due to the steep topography of forest highlands, the surface runoff, unhindered by the degraded vegetation, accelerates to a frightening speed, accumulating massive kinetic energy within a matter of minutes. The danger does not stop there. Throughout the long dry months, forest floors and mountain ravines accumulate a massive volume of natural debris, fallen, brittle branches, thick layers of decayed leaves, and weathered rocks broken off from cliff faces sitting idle in dry hollows. When the high-pressure surface runoff sweeps across the slopes, it acts like a giant broom, gathering all this mud, gravel, and dry wood along its path. As this chaotic slurry of water, rocks, and debris dumps into the stream bed, it barrels through the narrow channels. At sharp bends, narrow gorges, or protruding rock faces, this massive mass of wood and stone jams up. Packed tightly together, they unintentionally form a temporary, natural dam blocking the stream. Rainwater from higher up keeps pouring down in ever-increasing volumes, hitting this blockage and causing the water level behind it to skyrocket, packing an immense amount of pressure energy. This makeshift dam effectively becomes a ticking time bomb upon reaching a critical threshold, when the water pressure overpowers the structural cohesion of the jammed wood and rocks. The dam bursts instantly. Millions of gallons of pent-up water, combined with hundreds of tons of tree trunks, large boulders, and thick mud, unleash at an unimaginable velocity, charging straight downstream. This phenomenon is precisely what a flash flood or a localized torrent is: a natural monster wielding absolute destructive power, ready to crush, flatten, and sweep away any obstacle in its path within a few short minutes. When analyzing the tragic accidents that occur at mountain streams during the transitional rainy season, rescue experts and behavioral scientists arrive at the same conclusion: most tragedies do not stem from humans confronting an unavoidable natural disaster, but from humans actively stepping into nature's trap due to their own complacency and cognitive blind spots. The lack of vigilance among tourists, especially young people embarking on spontaneous trips, can be dissected through several complex psychological angles. The first and most widespread error is a bias based on immediate visual experience. The stream is dry, so how could it possibly flood? Stepping onto a stream bed at the end of the dry season, seeing water that barely brushes the ankles flowing lazily among massive banks of exposed rocks, humans instantly form a false sense of security. They think that for such a dry stream to swell into a flood, it would require a massive typhoon or days of relentless, non-stop rain. Surely a passing afternoon storm won't do much. They apply a lowland mindset, where water rises gradually over hours or days, to the dynamics of high-altitude mountains. They have absolutely no concept of a flash flood's rising speed, which is measured in seconds, not hours. The second error, and one of the most fatal for stream goers, is a complete ignorance of watersheds and the phenomenon of rain on the mountain peak. Death at the bottom of the river. Mountain topography is a highly stratified, interconnected system. The small, peaceful stream where tourists stand is actually the tail end of a massive funnel collecting water from dozens, if not hundreds, of smaller mountain ravines upstream. When the first rain of the season arrives, it is highly localized. It is entirely possible that right where you are camping, the sky is merely overcast, the air is pleasantly cool, and there are only a few scattered, insignificant droplets. This tranquility convinces you that the weather is under control. However, just 5 to 10 kilometers away at the upper reaches, where the high peaks are completely veiled by dark storm clouds, a massive convective cell is dumping torrential rains. You cannot see the rain, you cannot hear the thunder, and you are completely blind to what is unfolding above. Yet, the deadly torrent has already been triggered and is racing toward you at the speed of a race car. This spatial disconnect between where the rain falls and where the impact is felt is the most sophisticated trap nature lays to deceive the inexperienced. Another psychological factor driving people into danger is the herd mentality coupled with social media pressure. Nowadays, traveling and camping are no longer just about enjoying nature. They are deeply tied to the need to take photos, shoot videos, and share them on social media platforms. Seeing glowing images and deeply romanticized reviews of a specific location leads people to automatically assume it is a safe paradise. When a group of friends travels together, the herd mentality tends to dilute individual vigilance. If a few members feel uneasy when the rain starts and suggest packing up, they are often dismissed by the rest of the group with dismissive statements like, "It's just a little rain to cool things down. We're having so much fun. Where are you running off to?" Or "Look, other people are still swimming over there. It's fine." The fear of being labeled a coward or ruining the collective fun forces people to stay silent, compromise, and remain in the danger zone until there is no way out. Furthermore, the current trend of glamorous camping ay kam vijay mat koi long trang thit b dgaccang con vatititian. Travelers bring heavy-duty frame tents, foldable tables and chairs, specialized grills, portable speakers, high-end cameras, smartphones, and countless personal items. When the first rain hits and the stream shows signs of rising, instead of abandoning everything immediately to save their lives, a sense of loss aversion and regret over their preparation efforts kicks in. They begin to scramble to pack up, dismantling tarps, wiping down grills, and packing cameras into waterproof bags. They think they just need 5 or 10 minutes to clear out and leave. What they do not know is that in a flash flood scenario, a 50-second delay is more than enough to seal a person's fate, let alone 10 minutes. When the roaring, crimson torrent crashes down, those expensive pieces of gear become invisible chains shackling them to their demise. To see the danger of the season's first rains even more clearly, we must analyze the structural topography of a natural stream from the perspective of land surveying and fluid dynamics. A stream bed is not a flat pavement, nor is it engineered for humans to easily escape when a crisis strikes. A natural stream in hilly terrain is sculpted through thousands of years of erosion and sedimentatio, and its common features include narrow widths, highly uneven floors jagged with massive isolated boulders, uneven gravel bars, and deep, eroded plunge pools. Both banks are typically steep cliffs or high-angled dirt walls covered in tangled roots and thick brush. In dry conditions, this structure creates a raw, majestic beauty. But when a flash flood hits, this structure instantly transforms into a closed box trap with no escape routes. When a mountain torrent strikes, the water does not move like a standard wave. It advances as a vertical wall of water. Because the channel is narrow and choked by rock walls on both sides, the water cannot spread out laterally and is forced to surge vertically. The rising speed of an early season flash flood can reach 1 to 2 meters in just a few dozen seconds. Imagine standing in the middle of a stream bed, surrounded by massive rocks. When the wall of water surges above your head, the sheer thrust and pressure of the raging current will instantly sweep you off your feet. You cannot walk, you cannot run, and you cannot even swim, because the water at this point is choked with thick mud and debris, drastically reducing its buoyancy and density, making the human body sink effortlessly. Another specific hazard of stream bed topography is the extreme slipperiness of the pebble surfaces. After a long dry season, rocks in the stream are often coated with a layer of dried algae, dead moss, or a fine layer of dust from weathered rocks. When the first raindrops hit, this layer of dust and dried moss instantly liquefies into a hyperslick film, acting exactly like a layer of oil slicked across the stone, even if the floodwater hasn't surged high yet, perhaps only swirling round your ankles. The sheer force of the current combined with this lack of friction means you cannot grip the rock. Every single step becomes a gamble. A single slip into the bed of the stream and the raging current will drag you away, slamming your body into the surrounding jagged boulders, causing severe trauma or knocking you unconscious before you can even register what is happening. Moreover, the bed structure hides invisible traps that the naked eye cannot see once the water turns muddy. These are narrow rock fissures and deep underwater potholes gouged out by swirling vortex currents over many years. As the roaring floodwaters charge down, they drag a massive amount of sand, gravel, and heavy mud. If tourists attempt to wade through the stream to reach the bank while the water is rising, their feet can easily plunge into these hidden fissures or become jammed tightly between shifting boulders under the immense weight of the current. Once a foot is pinned in a flooding stream, escaping is utterly impossible without specialized rescue tools. The trapped individual is forced to take the full brunt of the torrent and is rapidly submerged by the rising water. One of the most magnificent yet unyielding laws of nature is that it always transmits warning signals before a catastrophe strikes. Disasters rarely hit without prior notice. It is humans who, consumed by fun, lacking knowledge, or blinded by complacency, accidentally or deliberately ignore these warnings. For anyone visiting a stream during the seasonal transition, recognizing and reading the language of the water is the sole boundary separating life from death. The very first and most accessible warning sign is a sudden drop in water temperature. If you are swimming or wading in a stream on a sweltering day and suddenly feel the water surrounding you turn icy cold within a span of just a few minutes, this is not a random coincidence or a refreshing gift from nature. It is a signal that rainwater from the high, cold mountain peaks upstream where heavy downpours are currently occurring has begun to merge into the current and flow down to the lower reaches. This cold front of water is the pioneer, the messenger warning that a massive wall of floodwater is trailing right behind it. The second sign, which is highly visual, is a change in the color and clarity of the stream. A safe stream is a stream with crystal clear, gently flowing water. The moment you see the water begin to turn a yellowish hue, then rapidly transform into a brick red, muddy brown sludge resembling heavy silt, accompanied by thick, white froth churning violently on the surface, that is the exact second you must step out of the water. This discoloration proves that the surface runoff upstream has begun tearing up the drain, eroding soil and dumping mud directly into the stream channel. The excessive frothing is caused by the high-velocity flow from above compressing air into the water columns. Many inexperienced travelers see the water turn muddy and think nothing of it, assuming the rain just made the water a bit dirty and continue standing in the stream to wash off or wait for it to clear up. They do not realize that from the moment the water turns muddy to the moment the wall of the flash flood hits is often a window of less than 2 minutes. The third sign is the unusual appearance of floating debris on the current. If you are standing downstream and notice a sudden influx of fresh green leaves, small broken branches, forest litter, or even large mats of dislodged moss floating past at an accelerating speed, this is an emergency alert. Those green leaves and branches are the direct result of violent winds and heavy downpours upstream, snapping vegetation, which the flash flood is now gathering on its way down. By the time these objects drift past you, it means the flow above has accelerated dramatically, and a temporary debris dam higher up may have just burst or overtopped. The final and most terrifying sign is the sound of the wilderness itself. If the environment around you suddenly undergoes a drastic acoustic shift, the birds completely stop singing. The wind whipping through the canopy grows violently loud, and from deep within the mountains echoes a low, continuous rumbling roar resembling distant thunder or the engine of a freight train barreling toward you. This is no ordinary weather phenomenon. That is the actual acoustic frequency generated by thousands of tons of rock, gravel, and uprooted ancient trees grinding against each other and smashing into cliff walls as they are swept down by the mountain torrent. By the time this sound reaches your ears clearly, the monster that is the flash flood is already at your doorstep. Your survival window at this point is no longer measured in minutes. It is counted in heartbeats. When facing the wrath of nature during an early season flash flood, panic equals death. The only thing that can save your life and the lives of those around you is a survival protocol deeply ingrained in your consciousness, combined with a decisive, uncompromising will to act without a single second of hesitation The supreme and first rule of survival for anyone picnicking near rivers and streams during transitional seasons is never, under any circumstances, camp, pitch tents, or leave gear in the stream bed or on low-lying gravel bars, no matter how brilliant the sun is when you arrive. No matter how dry the stream bed looks or how beautiful and flat the boulders appear, always choose a campsite on high, level ground situated entirely above the current water line by at least 5 to 10 vertical meters. The ideal spots are areas covered in mature, deep-rooted trees, a clear biological sign that the currents of past flash floods have not reached this elevation in years. Remember, a stream bed is the water's highway, and when the water needs to run, it will reclaim its road without warning. The second principle is establishing an early lookout system throughout your stay. When a group of friends or a family organizes activities in a stream bed such as swimming, fishing, or taking photos, never allow everyone to be down in the water at the same time. Always designate at least 1 or 2 physically fit, experienced individuals to act as lookouts. The second principle is establishing an early lookout system throughout your stay. When a group of friends or a family organizes activities in a stream bed such as swimming, fishing, or taking photos, never allow everyone to be down in the water at the same time. Always designate at least 1 or 2 physically fit, experienced individuals to act as lookouts. This lookout must stand at a higher vantage point with a completely unobstructed view of the upstream channel and the distant sky. Their sole duty is not to join the fun, but to continuously scan the color of the water, listen to the sounds of the forest, and monitor weather changes on the distant peaks. The lookout must be equipped with a high decibel signaling tool, such as a rescue whistle or a megaphone. The moment they detect even the slightest anomaly, they hold the absolute authority to trigger an emergency evacuation, and the entire group must move instantly without arguing or pausing to double-check. When the evacuation order is barked out, or when you personally spot the dangers of the stream, an emergency response sequence must be initiated immediately based on the principle of abandon your belongings to save your life. This is the exact threshold where many fail and pay with their lives. The moment the water rises or changes color, instantly abandon all tents, tarps, chairs, grills, vehicles, cameras, and food. Do not try to pull up an expensive tent stake. Do not waste time extinguishing a grill, and do not look for a lost flip-flop. The only asset you need to salvage is your body and the bodies of those around you. Lock hands tightly, secure and lift children and the elderly off their feet, and run directly toward the highest ground. The escape path when fleeing a flash flood also follows a strict geometric rule. Move perpendicular to the current and climb upward. Never run along the stream bed toward the lower reaches under the illusion that you can outrun the flood water, or run toward a familiar lowland trail. The speed of a mountain torrent always outpaces a human running on uneven rocks by multiple factors. Running down the channel ensures you stay directly within the kill zone of the advancing water wall. Choose the nearest dirt bank or rock face on either side of the stream. Use both hands and feet to grip roots and brush, and scramble as high as humanly possible. The higher you climb, the further you distance yourself from the lethal kinetic energy of the flow. In the worst-case scenario, where you fail to reach high ground in time and the rising flood waters cut off your path to the bank, trapping you in the middle of a raging current, absolutely do not panic and dive into the water to swim. And do not attempt to wade through the current if the water has risen above your knees and is flowing heavily. The impact of a rushing current at knee height can easily knock down an athletic, full-grown adult. Instead, immediately seek out a massive, anchored boulder and cling tightly to its top or its downstream side, the sheltered side, to minimize the water's direct force and avoid being struck by drifting logs and stones. Use every ounce of strength to hold your ground, shouting loudly to alert comrades who have already made it safely to the bank. If there are people on the shore, they must throw lifelines, long branches, or tied together belts to create a makeshift rescue line, pulling the victim toward the bank at a diagonal. downstream angle never dragging them directly against the teeth of a raging current. The first rains of the season following a brutal drought are, in the grand scheme of things, neither a punishment from creation nor a malicious act of nature. They are simply a perfectly normal biological and physical mechanism operating in accordance with the immutable cyclical laws of the Earth and the universe. The ecosystem desperately needs these initial rains to cool down the atmosphere, to provide life-saving water to drying forests, and to quench the thirst of the earth and wildlife after a harsh, dry spell. Nature possesses no conscious intent to destroy humanity. It is merely executing its automated duty to rebalance itself. Tragedy and danger are not born from the rain, nor are they born from the stream. They are birthed from the sheer arrogance, ignorance, and boundless complacency of human beings. We step into deep forests and pristine stream beds with the mindset of pure consumers. We carry the logic of modern, comfortable urban life into a highly powerful wild space where the survival laws of nature hold absolute sovereignty. We demand that nature coddle us, serve as a pretty backdrop for photos, and provide us with relaxation. Yet we absolutely refuse to invest the effort to learn, understand, and respect the laws governing its motion. Exercising caution before the forces of nature is never a sign of cowardice or timidity. On the contrary, knowing how to fear the immense power of creation, knowing when to halt and retreat before the warning signs of weather, represents the highest order of survival intelligence, the hallmark of an educated, sophisticated, and responsible traveler. That caution demonstrates that you respect your own life, respect your family's future, and respect the peace of mind of search and rescue teams, those who must plunge into danger to fix the consequences of someone else's complacency. Continue to travel, continue to explore, and immerse yourself in the wilderness. Let the cool stream waters wash away the exhaustion and pressures of daily survival in the city. However, please walk with a cold head, a solid foundation of survival knowledge, and a heart that holds deep reverence for nature. Before deciding to step down into a dry stream bed during these sensitive transitional days, always ask yourself a sobering question. Is a few dozen minutes of cooling off or a few beautiful photos worth gambling the entire remainder of my life? Natural disasters can unfold unexpectedly, cannot be predicted down to the exact second. But whether we become their victims or not depends entirely on our own alertness, our respect for the natural world, and our capacity for decisive action. Do not let a journey of youth or a family picnic promised with laughter end as a heartbreaking obituary on the front page of tomorrow's newspapers.